What's up guys, today we're going to be showing you how to install a front Rhino 2.0 axle on this Polaris RZR Pro R. So let's get right to it. The first thing we're going to do is remove our front wheel and tire. Now we're going to disconnect our tie rod from our knuckle. Remove the nut. Then we're going to take two hammers. We're going to lay one here, and we're going to smack it in order to get our tie rod released from our knuckle. So after you smacked it and knocked your tie rod in loose, just lift up on it, remove it, set it aside. Then we're going to come in here and remove our bolts securing our front brake caliper. So now we're going to remove our two brake caliper bolts. And we're going to grab our brake caliper, wiggle it off of our rotor. We can also grab our rotor and set it aside. Now we're going to remove our 30mm axle nut. Now we're going to remove these two 8mm bolts here that are securing the brake line to the knuckle. What I like to do is when I remove these two bolts here, I like to just go ahead and take them and thread them right back into the hole they came from. That way you don't lose them. And we're going to take our brake caliper, let it hang. We have a pad that's about to come out, so we're going to go ahead and just remove it and set it aside. That way it doesn't fall out and hit the floor. Now we're going to remove our shock bolt. Now we're going to disconnect the sway bar. It'll be an 1818. Now we're going to remove our 15mm upper ball joint pinch bolt. Just remove it. Now we're going to take a ratchet strap, loop it around the cage, and back to itself like this. Now that we have this pinch bolt removed, we're just going to wiggle this upper A-arm out of the way, just like this. We're going to take our strap. You can wrap it around the ball joint stud. Works out just fine. And lift this arm up and out of the way. That, and we can take our caliper, lay it right here on top of the arm. It looks like our axle's stuck in the hub a little bit. So what we're gonna do, just give it a few taps, knock it loose, just like so. So now that we have our axle loose out of our hub, what we're going to do is pick up on our arm, remove our shock bolt, and also remove the sway bar. All we did there is just pulled the bolt out, let this A-arm drop down. Go ahead and put our bolt back in there. I'll let this arm drop all the way down, pull our axle up. And this part is a little bit of the trickiness here. You need to pull your axle to the side like this, plunge it in, and then pull straight out on it. Now our axle's removed. So now we're gonna take our strap off of our arm, and we're gonna grab our shock and get it pulled out as far as we possibly can. Right about there, looks like it's about as far as we can get it out. Then we're gonna hook our strap to the shock itself. I like to just put the bolt back through and hook to the bolt here. Now we're gonna grab our new Rhino 2.0 axle and install it to the front differential and start reassembling. So before I install an axle, I like to take some axle grease or some NICs and just put a little bit on the threads. You don't need to put a ton, but just one pretty good swipe around is plenty enough. This is gonna save you later on down the road. That way that axle doesn't get seized up in the differential from getting dirt, dust, debris, any combination of contaminants that would make the axle get stuck in the differential. Now we're gonna make sure that our C-clip opening is facing down. We're gonna slide our axle. So once your axle pops into the differential, this part right here, you're gonna have to let the axle drop down, but you don't want it to drop all the way out because it'll pinch the boot. You just wanna bring it down enough to where you can grab a hold of your knuckle. Just wanna grab your knuckle and get your axle slid into the knuckle. Until your threads start to protrude through, just like so. All right, so this part here is gonna be slightly tricky for a second, but what you're gonna do is grab a hold of your upper arm, cut your strap loose, slide your bolt out, get your shock slid over the axle shaft, take your strap your upper A arm back up out of the way. Just like so. And we're gonna line our shock up on our bushings. You're gonna make sure you keep your bushings as straight as you possibly can. Line up the hole, slide your shock bolt through. Then we're gonna come up here to our sway bar link and go ahead and get our hardware slid back through. Sometimes you have to rotate around the sway bar to get it how it needs to be. Just like so. We'll go ahead and start our nut. Now we're gonna go ahead and start our nut onto our sway bar link hardware. Just like so. Now we're gonna grab our 15mm pinch bolt for our upper ball joint. Go ahead and remove the strap off of our upper arm. I'm gonna slide the upper arm into the knuckle here, just like it was when you removed it. Take your pinch bolt, slide it through, put your nut on. Now we're going to go ahead and start our hardware onto our shock bolt. Get the nut ran up like so. And then we're going to go ahead and fully tighten the shock, the A-arm pinch bolt, and the sway bar link bolt. Once that's tight, we're going to tighten our shock. Then we're going to tighten our pinch bolt. Now we're going to install our castle nut. Just going to run it up until a hole is exposed for our cotter pin to go through. And we'll just take our cotter pin, drop it through the hole, take a pair of side cuts, bend it away from itself so it locks in. just like so. Now we're going to go ahead and remove our 8mm bolts out of our knuckle for our brake line. We'll just go ahead and reattach those. Once you get them started, let's go ahead and run them up. And as you can see, our caliper, the slide pins came out. So we're going to show you what to do if this happens to you on your machine. First, you want to take your rotor. Get your rotor slid up on there. I like to take a lug nut just to kind of hold it in place. So if your brake caliper does this where it slides off the pins, what you're going to do is come up here, get a Allen and remove your Allen. So that's how the slide pin setup is threaded into the brake pad bracket here. So we'll remove that. And same thing on this one. Remove it. So then what we're going to do is install our brake caliper bracket. Now we're going to install our 16mm brake caliper bolts here, top and bottom. Just like that. Grab our brake pads, slide them into the brake pad sliders here. So it'll go just like so. Then you'll take your caliper, flip it over and onto the pads. You just want to watch these boots as you install it. So make sure that these boots are lining up. That's where you can get them slid back onto the caliper. And then our slide pins that we just removed, the ones that had the Allens on them, what they're going to do, slide directly through and line up with the caliper. And before you fully tighten them, what I like to do is just make sure that they start straight. Everything's good. And these are starting good and straight. I'm just going to go ahead and run them up, tighten them up. And we're going to come in with our 16mm socket, fully tighten our brake caliper bracket bolts. So now we're going to install our washer, and then our nut. Then we're going to fully tighten the tie rod in. Just like so. Now we're going to reinstall our wheel and tire. Make sure you got them all started and go through and fully tighten. So once you've went through, fully tightened all the hardware, reinstalled your wheel and tire, if you were to install a Rhino 2.0 axle on the opposite side, it's going to be exactly the same for removal and installation. So that's all there is to it to install SuperATV's front Rhino 2.0 axles on this Polaris RZR Pro R. Be sure to check the description below for a link to pick yours up today. While you're there, drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.